To Barkley Tag to train. Mr. Tag is consistently one of the top trainers on the New York circuit. And he got this horse going at Belmont Park in September of 2002, and he won his first start by 15 lengths. So he had a very auspicious beginning. He went on to win twice more as a 2-year-old. He's undefeated at 2. And when you have an undefeated 2-year-old, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to avoid Derby fever. And the Saratoga stables, they were certainly not immune to that. They put him on the Derby trail through Louisiana and Florida, finally making their final stop in New York in the Grade 1 Wood Memorial in April. He finished second in that race to a very good horse named Empire Maker. But with that second place finish, he now had enough earnings to be entered into the Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby is for the top 20 winners, money winners in graded stakes races. So he really needed that second in the Wood Memorial to move forward. So it was off to Louisville and the Kentucky Derby. And the week before the Kentucky Derby around here, and particularly in Louisville, is just crazy. You have lots of folks here in town. You got a lot of sports writers that probably just cover one race a year, and that's the Derby. And they all have an opinion. And that year, the horse that they anointed to be the next Secretariat was Empire Maker. He was a very, very, very good horse. He came from the right stable. He was trained by the great Bobby Frankel. He came from a prominent ownership with the Judmont Farms, owned by Sheikh Khalid Abdullah, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. So, you know, he had a lot of things going for him, plus he was a talented racehorse. Funny Cide, on the other hand, was a New York bred. At that point, there had never been a New York bred win the Kentucky Derby. He's a gelding, and hadn't had a gelding win the Kentucky Derby since 1929, when a son of a man of war named Clyde Van Dusen won the Kentucky Derby. So he wasn't getting much love from the press, but fortunately, Funny Cide, he doesn't read the Daily Racing Form, and he didn't know that he was not supposed to win the Kentucky Derby. Well, you saw what happened. He went on to defeat 2 Frankel horses, Empire Maker and Peace Rules, and won by a length and a half at odds of 12-1 to take the Roses. And from there, it was on to Pimlico in Baltimore to run in the Preakness Stakes. Ran off from the field in the Preakness Stakes, winning by 9 lengths. Next stop would be Belmont Park. You know, the horse had 2/3 of the Triple Crown in his pocket, and he was heading home. So there was a lot of confidence, a lot of hope that this would be the year to break the drought that has been occurring since 1978, the last Triple Crown winner being the Great Affirm. Well, unfortunately, the track came up very muddy that day. It's a sloppy track, and this horse, as much as he loves to roll in the mud here in Kentucky, he doesn't like to run in it in New York. And as game as he was only able to manage a 3rd place finish to 2 horses who had actually skipped the Preakness. The winner that day, Empire Maker, did not go to Baltimore. So, once again, we were denied a Triple Crown winner. But at the end of the year, Funny Cide won the Eclipse Award as champion 3-year-old male, and was also named the New York Bred Horse of the Year. As a 4-year-old, you saw him winning the Jockey Club Gold Cup at Belmont Park, and he continued to race until July of 2007, when he won his final start at the Wadsworth Memorial Handicap. Now, Funny retired from racing shortly after that with earnings of $3.5 million. And while he retired from racing, he didn't retire from the racetrack. He became Barkley Tag's stable pony. He liked having him around the barn. I don't know, maybe he thought he was a good influence and was imparting some knowledge to the younger horses, I don't know. But after about a year, Funny Cide decided he really didn't like the stable pony job. He's kind of thinking, you know, I did win 2/3 of the Triple Crown. What am I doing waking up early in the morning? So he started biting the horses that he was leading down to the track. And that's not a good trait. Even if he is a Kentucky Derby owner, owners don't want their horses being bit by the stable pony. So he got fired and came to Kentucky. It worked out well for us. He showed up here on December the 5th of 2008 to represent all the Kentucky Derby winners here at the Hall of Champions. Funny Cide was commonly known as the People's Horse and also referred to as the Pride of New York. He's now 11 years old, stands 16.2 hands tall, and once again, he is your 2003 Kentucky Derby winner, Funny Cide. This is the world's horse. This is the great Cigar. Now, Cigar was foaled at the Pons family's Country Life Farm in Bel Air, Maryland back in 1990. His sire is a horse named Palace Music, who is a grandson of the great Northern Dancer. He's out of a mare named Solar Slew, and Solar Slew is the daughter of the only undefeated Triple Crown winner in history, the great Seattle Slew. And he was bred and owned by Mr. Alan E. Paulson. Now, early in life, Cigar earned the nickname the Hammer. Had a bad habit of rearing and striking at people that were trying to help him, Cigar, and had a bad habit of doing that. And he also had a tendency, like many horses do, to kind of get in trouble and try and self-destruct. Early on, he ran through a plank fence, like we have around the barn here. Plank fences sometimes bite back, and this one did, and the plank went through his shoulder a little bit. And if you look above his right foreleg, you can see where he received 32 stitches to hopefully close that up. Well, it's in an area where there's a lot of motion, a lot of flexion, so it took some time to get that closed up, and it delayed his racing career. He didn't get to the track until later in his 3-year-old campaign. He was out on the West Coast with a fellow named Alec Hassinger, and he ran 9 times as a 3-year-old, but he won only twice. So Mr. Paulson made a change. They sent him to the East Coast with Bill Mott, who was a consistent top trainer in New York. Mott raced him 4 times, and he lost his first 4 races. So then he decided to make a switch and took him off the turf course and put him on the dirt. And as they say, the rest is history. He won an allowance race on October the 28th in 1994 to begin one of the greatest win streaks of our time. This streak would extend to 16 consecutive races, tying Citation's modern-day record set in 1950. In 1995, Cigar won all 10 of his starts, including the Breeders' Cup Classic, where he set a new stakes record of 1:59 and 2/5 seconds for the mile and quarter. In 1996, he traveled halfway around the world to the desert sands of Dubai, where he won the first running of the world's richest horse race, the Dubai World Cup, overcoming a quarter crack, jet lag, and a new racing surface. He tied Citation's record in July of 1996, but number 17 was not to be. He was defeated in the Pacific Classic at Del Mar. He was retired with career totals of 33 starts, 19 wins, and earnings of $9,999,815. $185 short of $10 million. I think I'd have run him just maybe one more time to go over the top. That's just me. But he was voted the champion older male and horse of the year in both 95 and 96. And like what happens with all good colts, he was syndicated for stud duty. Cigar was syndicated for $25 million and entered stud at Coolmore's Ashford Stud in Versailles, Kentucky in 1997 for a fee of $75,000 a mare. So he kicked off his career at stud in February, and come March, there were some unhappy breeders here in Kentucky. He had covered 37 mares, and 37 mares were still empty. And that's too much for a coincidence. So there was a little work done. They checked him out, found out he was completely sterile. Yes. So the insurance company Generali out of Italy, they had to pay a $25 million infertility claim, and they now owned a retired sterile horse. Well, they sent him to Watercress Farm in Paris, Kentucky with Dr. Phil McCarthy. And McCarthy, he's worked some miracles before, but there were to be no miracles for Cigar. After 2 years, they said, well, he's been here long enough, and why don't we take him to the horse park where his fans can come see him, and he can live out a happy life here at the park. So he came to us on May the 2nd of 1999. He's been here ever since. After he got to us, Cigar was voted the horse of the decade for the 90s, and also the 18th greatest racehorse of the 20th century. And he was inducted into the Thoroughbred Racing Hall of Fame in 2002. Cigar is now 21 years old, stands 16.3 hands tall.